This is TruthQuest, uncovering the powerful technologies, visionary strategies, and compelling stories that fuel our quest for clarity and authenticity in a rapidly changing world. From groundbreaking innovations to real-life success stories, we take a deep dive into how individuals and businesses are harnessing truth tech to change their lives and create meaningful change. We believe that everyone deserves to know the truth. This is TruthQuest. And now your hosts, Dr. Bryan and Mary Claire.
Welcome. I'm Dr. Bryan.
And I'm Mary Claire.
And we're your hosts for TruthQuest, where we dive into the new technologies and stories about people's quest for truth and the impact it has on their lives.
I am excited to introduce our guest today, Jeff Beatty. We've gotten to know Jeff over the last number of months and an absolute fascinating background, which we're going to let him tell you. And based on that background is why we have continued to get to know Jeff and really have dove into the concept of truth and truth verification with Jeff and his organization. So, Jeff, thank you for joining us. Excited for our listeners to get to know you. I think this will be one of many conversations we have together with our listeners. So I'd love to kick it off and I know I've heard it, but I want to hear it again. And I want our listeners to hear. Tell us your storied background because it's fascinating.
Okay. Well, I came from a middle-class family, and we all cared about our lawns. But seriously, so I guess the relevant background is the professional background. Grew up in New Jersey, went to Rutgers College, started as a pharmacy major, then freshman chemistry humbled me, and I decided I was much more of a touchy-feely guy. And so sociology was what I ended up with my degree in, was at ROTC, became an Army officer, infantry guy in Panama, aviator in Europe, and then a special operations guy as an officer in the Delta Force at Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty, North Carolina.
That's amazing.
And after that, spent some time advising the FBI's National Hostage Rescue Team as a special agent, and also Central Intelligence as a case officer in Europe and the Middle East, working primarily against terrorism targets, and ran a couple of small businesses, all centered around prevention of great acts of violence. Was able to do a predictive analytic exercise that predicted the Atlanta Olympic bomb 4 months in advance. Said there's going to be a success. It's going to be a successful attack. It's going to be a package bomb. It's going to be after the fifth day. There's going to be approximately 100 casualties, and it's going to be a domestic group. So it was the ninth day package bomb, 111 casualties, Olympic Park, and a domestic individual involved in it. So I like data. I like science. I'm not a scientist. Again, freshman chemistry, heard me of that. But I'm fascinated in Central Intelligence and these other organizations I had the chance to get into by the skin of my fingernails, but nonetheless make it into. They had really serious vetting processes in place, very serious. One of them, Central Intelligence, even had a polygraph exam, which was a lifestyle polygraph exam. You know, have you ever shoplifted anything? Have you ever done this or that? Exhausting, but the purpose of it, after several hours, they wanted to know that they had somebody working for them who would tell them the truth. And they wanted to know that they could rely on what I was telling them, because they just put me through the grinder of this really tough polygraph examination. Not everybody passes the polygraph examination. So I've always been a believer in that. People can tell you, oh, you can trust me, but can they prove it? They can tell you that, but can they prove it? And so things that have happened lately in with real estate, you know, after I retired, I found out that I couldn't turn my brain off and that I needed stimulation. And real estate's problem solving every day. There's something different. So as a broker here in the Villages in Florida, the broker for Next Home Salary Love Real Estate, we constantly are challenged with every situation's unique. So it's been really great in problem solving. But I've also seen some serious deficiencies in truthfulness and integrity and in ethics. And I wanted, particularly our population, this is the largest senior population in the country, 140,000 people growing to over 200,000 in the next couple of years. If anybody's worthy of trust, of they need to be on the receiving end of somebody who's trustful. It's these people,
Yeah.
they're not going to be able to go out and have another living and generate more income. What they've got is what they've got, pretty much. So trust is so important for them. And I had customers and others come to me with complaints as wild as, this realtor forged my signature on a document. And this was somebody who was a kind of a bigwig, a high, a poobah, a grand poobah in the local real estate organization, and customer coming and saying they forged the signature. And you hear horror stories. You hear horror
Yeah.
stories about how people were mistreated. And so what I wanted to do, and I initially started looking at polygraph exams, but who has the time? It's 4+ hours. They're incredibly expensive. So then I started looking for other technologies that could be a really key component of our trusted partner program. And there you were, and found you, and it's been fantastic. And so anyhow, I'm talking too much, but I love
No, that's
how we got to meet you. And,
yeah.
and I think it's a fantastic tool in our industry. And I hope we can get more and more people to do it. Quite frankly, I've had other people tell me they don't think that the majority of people in this business could pass it, could be a trusted partner. And that means that it's even more important for those folks who are doing a good job to be able to separate themselves from the great unwashed,
Yeah.
and be recognized as someone who is worthy of trust.
Let's take that, and I'm still learning through all my conversations with you and others, the recent ruling that came down, which I believe is relevant for part of your vision, and it's a bigger vision than you've even communicated, for the role of truth verification in writing, if you will, perception and reality of dealing with certain types of professionals. So give all the listeners out there who may not be paying attention, but may be in the market of buying a house soon, what just happened and why does it matter? And then we'll connect the dots between that and your vision for truth.
Sure. Well, actually, this was a kind of a catalyst event that just happened. In 2023, the fall of 2023, a jury found that the National Association of Realtors and the multiple listing system were guilty of antitrust violations they don't use guilty in a civil, were found to have been not doing what they should do. And in fact, were violating the Sherman Antitrust Act by colluding to raise prices, raise commissions, and have the public pay more than they needed to. And specifically, this was about sellers being induced, urged, whatever word you want to use, pick your verb, to include not only commission for the agent working with the seller, but also commission for the agent working with the buyer. It was called cooperating broker, right? So people wanted to put their home in the multiple listing service. They had to play the game. They had to put money aside for both the listing agent and the buyer's agent, or it wasn't going to be put in the MLS. Now, that's kind of pressure. If you're trying to sell your house, you want your home in the multiple listing service. So it didn't, this became a class action suit. It started in 2019. The trial happened in October, November timeframe of 2023. And it didn't take a jury of your peers very long, less than, I think, 2 hours, to come back with a verdict that said they're at fault. They're at fault. They have colluded to raise prices. They have not acted in the public interest. So, wow, every realtor in the country has just been painted with that brush. Yeah. And we felt the need at my partner here and our owner, our namesake, Sally Love, early in 2024, we did a survey. We asked the population here in the villages, of the 5 top realtors, who is the most trusted? She got 44+% of the first place votes. Sally Love did. The next closest got 15+%.
Whoa.
Right? So, I mean, trust is important. And we felt, well, that's an important thing. We can share with the public, Sally Love and her people are trustworthy. That's the standard she sets. But it wasn't really the scientific thing that I wanted. Everybody
Yeah.
can tell you, oh, I'm trustworthy. I wanted science. I wanted to be able to prove it. And again, that's what led me
Yeah.
on an internet search to find you guys.
Jeff, let me ask you a question, just pushing you a little bit further on this ruling, because I can see exactly where you're headed in terms of that broad brush painting realtors as, not trustworthy. One of the challenges is these inherent conflicts of interest that exist in this transaction process, right? Like if you have a realtor who gets paid when the house sells, then you have this underlying uneasiness, I think, with the seller who's like, is this person really acting in my best interest? Are they just out to sell the house to get their commission? And then when you have the, I'll use the word collusion, although that may be too strong, but this cooperation that was found to be problematic. You just raise all of these red flags. How would you think about the whole industry in general and its structure and in terms of how it operates and how people interact with it?
Well, sure. Let's break it down. There's a selling side, and then there's the buyer side, right? So on the seller side, the seller has been told, let's just pick a number. Well, let's pick a letter. They don't want us to talk about numbers, right? So, commissions have always been negotiable. Okay, I've checked that box off. I've said that. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's say that the commission historically had been X to go ahead and list the house and sell the house. Well, about one half of X was being put aside for paying the buyer, the agent that
Right.
brought the buyer. Okay, so when you're talking about a $500,000 house, all of a sudden we're in five figures. This is five
Right.
figures more that the seller has to ante up to sell their house. Now, the Justice Department and some of the plaintiffs have the observation, the position that, hey, the seller should pay his agent and the buyer should pay their agent, right? So what we see happening on the buyer side, I think, is counterintuitive. The way I don't think it's even fleshed out as far as it should be right now. Because on the buyer side, let me ask you this: let's say that Bryan, you're a buyer, okay,
Right.
and I'm your agent, and you want to buy a house that's on the market from Mary Claire, right? So you tell me, hey, I like that house. Let's go get it, And so my agreement with you now under this new system where we have to have an agreement before I can even show you that house, the buyer and the broker have an agreement. Under this new system, I could tell you, okay, well, I get paid a percentage of the home, right? So let's go look at this $500,000 home. My commission for you, my buyer, is going to be Y. Okay. So now, okay, we go look at that. And you want to put in an offer that's a little lower. You want to put in a $480,000 offer or $475,000, right? How am I, who's supposed to be working for you, Bryan, my buyer, how am I incentivized to negotiate that price down?
Right.
Because I'm taking hundreds of dollars out of my pocket.
Yep.
Right. And right now they still haven't got it. In my mind, I like to put forward what I call, who was the guy? The Jerry Maguire model, right? So I say to you, Bryan, okay, Bryan, I get a flat fee, let's say whatever it might be, a
Right.
fraction of X based upon the listing price of the house that you want to go. But then I get some Y money. You're my superstar. I'm negotiating from you. I'm a certified real estate negotiation expert. And I go in and I negotiate that house down for you to 480 or 475. And now I get a percentage of everything I negotiated down for you, right? So I save you $25,000 and I get incentivized.
Yeah.
And what you compensate me, I get a piece of that.
Now
10%,
we've aligned our
20%.
interests, right?
Exactly. We've aligned our interests. See, that's why he's a PhD. He knows how to package that.
Boss man.
He's the man. So our interests are now aligned. You feel like I'm really acting in your interest, right? Because I'm
Correct.
being compensated based upon how much I save you. And there's people who have drank years and years of Kool-Aid in the system who who have a real problem with doing it that way. But I feel like if you don't incentivize the buyer's agent to get the best deal for the buyer, then it's kind of counterintuitive to expect that that buyer's agent's really working for you, Bryan,
Yeah.
when he actually loses money every time he saves you $1,000 off the price.
This seems so
Yeah.
obvious, right, Jeff? I mean, if you're just kind of rational, you look at this and see that makes so much sense because, frankly, I've bought a lot of houses. I probably have bought more than 10 houses. And it feels like every time I have this experience, it just feels a little weird. It feels a little under the table. Like I can't really know if my agent is really doing what's in my best interest or their best interest. I have no way of knowing that.
Well, it's funny you should say that because, this code of ethics that we developed for the Trusted Partner Program, the Trusted Partner Code of Ethics talks to that. It's only like 3 questions. And the first element is just what you just said. Does the real estate professional put your interest and your wishes ahead of their financial interest
Yep.
and their wishes? And if you don't do something like our Jerry Maguire model, apologies to Jerry Maguire, if you don't do something like that, how could you possibly be acting in the buyer's best interest? I don't see it. So what we ask is the first question in the Trusted Partner Code of Ethics is: do you always put your customers' financial best interest and wishes ahead of your financial best interest? And they have to be able to answer yes to that. Otherwise, they can't be a trusted partner.
We've been talking about trusted partner. Maybe now's a good time to transition and have you explain kind of your insight, your aha moment when the light bulb went on, and kind of how have you structured trusted partner, and let's talk a little bit about that program.
I think the need has been simmering in me. I've been in real estate. Well, I've been in the government elite organizations, for a lot longer than I've been in real estate, right? I've been in real estate a little over 7 years and been a broker about 3.5 years, 4 years. But it was always simmering. It was always simmering, particularly because you would hear horror stories from customers, like the one about this person forged my signature, and you're like, good God, we've got to do better than that. So it was simmering there, and I was looking for the tool. And you guys had the tool, and I wanted to be able to have something definitive. And I just sold a house within the past week. I'm normally not selling homes as the broker, but it just circumstances popped up. I was the only person right there, so I was ending up working with this customer, and I'm the first trusted partner broker in the country. And we've now got another agent in our organization who's a trusted partner agent. And I'll tell you, these people, nice people, I think I have a somewhat agreeable personality, and we liked each other, and but they didn't know me from Adam. I
Right.
met them, and the first conversation we're having is about, how would you like to spend $480,000 with me? I mean, they don't know me from Adam.
Yeah.
And so it's like they were so comforted when I explained the Trusted Partner Program to them. Like they just thought it was awesome. They said, this is fantastic. We trust you anyhow. You are a trustworthy kind of guy. You come across that way. But from a peace of mind point of view, they really loved being able to work with a broker who's a trusted partner broker. I mean, it takes a guessing out of it. It takes some of that anxiety, that uneasiness, Bryan, that you probably felt. It's like,
Yeah.
how do I, subconsciously, how do I know they're not in cahoots with that guy, right?
Yeah. Jeff, did you talk to them about what went into it? Did you talk to them about the testing you did and how you get certified? And interesting.
I did talk to them about it, and got a little video clip. So funny. The husband just clammed up on camera. He was like very nervous, a little camera, but the wife was much more relaxed, and so, they both had really positive comments about the peace of mind that they were able to achieve, the reassurance that your technology is as a key part of the whole trusted partner program, that just gave them a comfort factor that they said, I've never had this kind of comfort factor in any previous transaction that I've done. So this was good.
Jeff, what are the different components? Because I know you have a broader vision too, even beyond real estate. What are those components a part of the certification?
Well, I think, and I'll turn around here and look at my wonderful training aid that we have up here. But basically, you've got the lie detector, right? That's the big technology item. That's what you guys have been providing at ICANN Know. And then we want people who are trusted partners to have at least a 700 credit score. Why would you, as a home buyer, want to trust your hundreds of thousands of dollars transaction to somebody who can't manage their own personal finances?
Yeah.
You know,
That was interesting.
You don't want somebody with a 500 or a 550 or a 600 credit score, a kind of a, well, that's nice, oh, well, I can explain, I went through a bad divorce. That's why my credit score, you know what? We don't care.
Yep.
We don't care. The bottom line is, if we don't get a few good people into the program, we'd rather not than lower our standard to say, oh, okay, that's an excuse. We'll give you that. We want the people that are in the program to represent a surety to customers who interact with people who have the trusted partner certification. So that credit score is important for that. Knowledge test, local market knowledge test, particularly now we're doing one that is got the ins and outs of the NAR settlement. I kind of gave you the 30,000 foot view. But then also clean state license. Their license has never been revoked or suspended. And I think that this has tremendous application, not just in the real estate industry, but I think it has application in lots of industries where you don't use it for a hiring decision, but you use it as a certification.
Right.
And, we talked to some people. MC was with me at a trade show in Florida Realtors recently. And we talked to some people who saw application for this, people really smart industry people in like insurance underwriting. You want to know that somebody's answering your questions truthfully, right? And so,
and by the way, did you just see the 60 Minutes special on that insurance underwriting fraud, where the insurance underwriters were doing their part, and then back at headquarters, they were all getting changed and redone, and people were getting, basically defrauded out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So your insight there is actually really powerful.
Well, I think we need to go knock on their door.
Yeah,
making a trusted partner insurance broker. But I wish we had time to go ahead and get a couple of political candidates to sign on as trusted partner political candidates that you could trust what they're telling you to be the truth, and then challenge their opponent. Hey, let's go both take this test and see who can pass this test, and let our electorate know who is more trustworthy.
Yeah.
Because everybody's calling everybody a liar left and right. So, but I mean, that's a 4-year event, right? But you've got many, many industries, particularly where the public is taking money out of their pocket and spending that money, and they again want to have a comfort factor that just isn't there. If I were running a car lot, I would want my salespeople to be trusted partners, and I would have this thing out in the showroom telling people that there isn't anybody else on the strip here who has sales reps that are trusted partners. Pretty much any industry, I can't say any industry, but a significant number of industries where the public has got to spend their money and wants to have a level of trust. I think that the Trusted Partner Program would be great in those industries.
Well, and to be clear, you said it earlier, Jeff, this is not a requirement from a hiring perspective or anything. This is an opportunity for those who want to take the initiative for their career and their growth to differentiate themselves from the herds that exist, So it's you elect
Right.
yourself as an individual contributor to do this to get the certification, correct?
Absolutely. Let me just spread that out a little bit more. In the National Association of Realtors, there's all kinds of classes and certifications and designations that you can get
Yeah, that's a good
to
point.
help you differentiate yourself from the great unwashed, from the rest of the herd. I mean, you can be an accredited buyer's representative. You can be a real estate negotiation expert. You can be an at-home with diversity expert. You can be a senior senior real estate specialist. A relocation specialist. They have all these designations to do just that. To give the public a sense of comfort that the person they're dealing with uh, is good. And you know what? Boom! I think they totally have missed the boat because at the base level of all of those certifications has to be, is this person trustworthy? That's really what they're trying to achieve. And they can't see the forest for the trees. They have been in this so long, they just cannot see the
Yeah.
forest for the trees. And so they think that being an accredited buyer's representative, okay, that checks the box off. That's going to differentiate me. Well, it will, but I mean, I would suggest that if you put a bunch of the public down there and you said, okay, here's a certification. Which one of these certifications do you want to see in your professional real estate agent? Do you want to see the trusted partner one, which includes the truth verification, or do you want to see one that's a pricing strategy advisor, a accredited buyer's representative? Which one of these means more to you as a member of the public? We need to do that survey because I'm telling you, I think trusted partner is going to blow everything else out of the water.
I think so too. Jeff, it's interesting because you can see how it benefits the business, but you can also see how it benefits the individual in their career trajectory, right? You talked about differentiation. In this case, to differentiate my professional abilities vis-a-vis my competitors. Like if you're choosing a realtor, it's not just choosing the brokerage, it's choosing the realtor, right? I mean,
Yeah.
or whatever the case might be, car salesman. But eventually what you're saying is I'm setting myself apart is as a better alternative.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, not every person who has a license in any state to sell real estate is a realtor. The realtor is a trademark name from the National Association of Realtors. So now, over 1 million members in the NAR. They had about 1.7 million a year ago. People are expecting that number to go down a little bit, but it's the biggest trade organization for that profession. But there's a lot of independent companies that are, Sally Love Real Estate. Sally Love Real Estate doesn't have to be a member of the National Association of Realtors. We have licenses. A lot of builder to sell real estate. A lot of builder developers have licenses to sell real estate, and they're not members of the National Association of Realtors. The National Association of Realtors wants to differentiate themselves from that wider pool
Yeah.
of people who are licensed to sell real estate. And that's why they have some of the certifications and all they have. That's why they have a code of ethics. But I would love to, get a chance to sit down with Kevin Sears, the president of the NAR, and say, Kevin, you want to build some credibility with Kevin, he's a Massachusetts guy like me originally. And say, man, you want some
Let's adopt
credibility.
this for everybody, right?
Pardon me?
Let's adopt this for everybody.
Let's offer this. Let's make it something that the NAR
Totally.
offers, right?
Totally.
And so because Kevin, and you got to do a few other things. Right now, if somebody brings a complaint, a member of the public brings a complaint to the National Association of Realtors, well, that'll never see the light of day. Every complaint that's brought to the National Association of Realtors is handled confidentially. And
Right.
the results of that complaint, the results of any investigation into it, they're not made known to the general public. So if you're supposed to be acting in the public interest, why don't we do something like Trusted Partner, make it an NAR, jewel in the crown, that this is something that you ought to achieve. Also, if you want to rehabilitate your image after this really disastrous loss, The finding was a 1.7 or $8 billion finding by the jury, which, because it was antitrust, it was trebled to like $5.7 billion. And the NAR negotiated a settlement for pennies on the dollars of $418 million. So, you want to rehabilitate the National Association of Realtors? Kevin, give me a call, 352-600-0334. Love to help you. Trademark process, so you got to work with us on it. But, let's do what the NAR has purported to do for so many years. Let's show that we're really acting in the public interest. Let's give some teeth to that code of ethics, and let's rebuild confidence in the NAR and in the entire anybody who wears the R, the realtor. And by doing so, you're going to raise a rising tide lifts all ships. Anybody who's in the real estate business will benefit from adopting these new things.
All right. Yeah, there just seems to be tremendous opportunity. I feel like we're on the brink. We talk about this internally as a team, but truth, the concept of truth, the topic of truth is continuing to pop up in more in pop culture. And you're seeing it here, not in pop culture, but in a professional industry. And there's going to be more and more of a call for it. And I think our vision is, how do we, as part of this podcast, how do we just make truth and the opportunities for truth the norm rather than the exception?
Yeah, and available to everyone.
I add one?
Yeah,
absolutely. I'd like to share one thing. The most elite organization I was able to squeak into was the U.S. Army's Delta Force, and very small organization. And I was recently back at a graduation ceremony. It's nice to be back after decades. Invited to a graduation ceremony for soldiers who had completed the really arduous selection process and then gone through a training program within the unit. Not everybody, even though you've been selected, not everybody makes it through the training. So now they were having a ceremony where these guys who had made it through selection, made it through the training, were now going to be blessed and sent across the hall, we call it, to go into an operational squadron. And it was great. One of the original members talked about something that the original commander, Charlie Beckwith, had shared with them. And he said, look, we're a small unit. We're always going to be a small unit. We need to be able to trust each other. American people need to be able to trust us. The National Command Authority is going to be the one sending us to go do things, the president. He said, so you're going to be out there on your own sometimes. And when you're out there on your own, you're going to wonder, I'm thinking about doing this. Can I go do it? Let me give you 3 tests. And if the answer is yes to all 3 of these tests, that's all the authority you need. Go do it. So the first test was, is it legal? Okay. Is what I'm contemplating legal? All right. Is it moral? Okay. What I'm contemplating is moral. And is it ethical? And if it passes those 3 tests, that's all the authority you need. If you're not able to get any other direct order, just passes those 3 tests, go do it. That's what I want for real estate. That's what I want for the National Association of Realtors. I'm serious, Kevin, all joking aside. If you get a copy of the podcast, really love to help you do this.
We'd love to help too.
More elite. Pardon me?
I said, we'd love to help too, right? That's the point. Together.
Yes.
Love to help him do something different.
You guys have got the key. I mean, it would have been so onerous to use old style polygraph technology.
Totally.
You couldn't do it. You couldn't do it for the numbers of people that you need to be able to have a chance to achieve this.
That's
so right. I think if it's legal, moral, and ethical, Trusted Partner is going to identify the people who live by that. And that's why I'm such a believer and excited about the future of it.
We're excited too. This is awesome, Jeff. We really appreciate your time today and really appreciate you joining and sharing your vision. We're excited by that vision, excited to be a partner with you on that. And thank you, Mary Claire.
Thank you, sir. Once again.
Yeah.
Having fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank
you to all of our,
thanks.
Thank you all. Thanks, Jeff. And we also want to thank all of our listeners. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, we hope your quest for truth is successful.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of TruthQuest. If you'd like to be a guest on our show or would like to customize a solution for yourself or your business, email us directly at answers@icanknow.com. TruthQuest is brought to you by the #1 truth verification technology available today. Visit us at icanknow.com to learn more and stay tuned for the next TruthQuest.